North Korea to negotiate with that country's enigmatic leader, Kim Jong-il. Our talks were conducted in Pyongyang, perhaps the strangest city on earth. There is no sign of commercial life, no advertising, no store signs, and no display windows. The country so deprived that it does not, to my knowledge, even have any multinational law firms. What it does have is an active program to develop nuclear arms. This is particularly dangerous because North Korea is so poor. It has few ways to earn money except by selling weapons. Missiles and bombs are its cash crop. And the government has a significant amount of plutonium which it could try to sell for as much money as it can get. And this would affect us and many generations to come, for plutonium has a half-life of 24,000 years. When I met Kim Jong-il, I found a man of considerable competence and truly amazing puffed hair. To appear taller, I always wear high heels. So did he. His primary goal was to normalize relations with the United States, and I told him that wouldn't be possible unless he agreed to limit his weapons programs. He said he was sure that an agreement could be reached, and we made considerable headway before the Clinton administration left office and we ran out of time. As you might suspect, the Bush administration thought a different strategy might achieve better results. It tried to isolate Pyongyang, which didn't work because Kim Jong-il is far more worried about appearing weak than about being isolated. Today, the idea of serious negotiations is once again on the table, and we can at least hope that North Korea will prove more forthcoming than it has been in the past. More generally, I believe the credit is due to President Obama for several steps that he has taken. First, he has worked with Russia and the other nuclear powers to de-emphasize the role of nuclear weapons in our arsenals. Second, he has proposed ways to strengthen the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty in a manner that could help both nuclear and non-nuclear nations alike. And third, he has shown that he is not afraid to sit down with adversaries to try to settle hard problems. He apparently understands, and some have not, that diplomacy is actually and has the greatest value when conducted between people who do not always agree. Looking to the future, we know that much depends on whether nuclear policy is subject to the rule of law or to no rules at all. The same is true for many other of our major security challenges. For example, in Afghanistan, the United States and NATO have been working for 8 years to strengthen the central government and to defeat extremist violence. A big problem has been the failure of the government in Kabul to establish an effective legal system. As a result, much of the economy depends on illegal drugs. The police have a reputation for corruption, and many Afghans cooperate with terrorists because they don't see any other choice. And to make matters worse, the presidential election held last August was marred by fraud, prompting diplomatic pressure on our part to see that a second and more honest round of balloting is held. This collection of problems has caused President Obama to initiate a comprehensive review of our whole strategy in Afghanistan. Whatever he decides, success will depend in part on whether the government can be counted on to observe and to enforce the law. I've now been out of office for more than 8 years, but I remain involved in issues related to law. To cite 2 examples, I am co-chair of a commission that is looking for ways to expand the legal empowerment of the poor, and I am head of a task force concerned with the prevention of genocide. Obviously, these are ambitious goals, and there's no yellow brick road leading to solution in either of them. Expanding the legal rights of the poor is a step-by-step process that begins at the national and local level. Preventing genocide often requires a show of political will from the very top of the international system. But with respect to these and many similar challenges, the fundamental questions are always the same. Are judicial outcomes determined by the privileges of power or by the principles of law? Are legal protections available to some or to all? Are the sources of law legitimate? And are the provisions of law effectively and consistently enforced? 4,000 years ago, a Babylonian leader by the name of Hammurabi issued a law code designed, and I quote, to cause justice to prevail in the country, to destroy the wicked and the evil, and to ensure that the strong do not oppress the weak, unquote. Sadly, Hammurabi's quest remains a work in progress. We are well into the 21st century, and yet we cannot claim that justice always prevails or that the strong no longer oppress the weak, which means that law schools still have much work to do. The strengthening of international law is critical to our future, especially as the shape of law changes in response to new circumstances. Traditional concepts are not adequate in the era of globalization, climate change, modern communications technology, and human mobility. International norms evolve constantly, and it takes all the running we can do to keep in pace. But the purpose of law does not change, and that is to make it possible for us to live together in dignity, prosperity, and peace. And this is not, as some might suggest, mushy multilateralism. It is smart multilateralism, and it's an essential building block of civilized life. Thank you all very much, and I now look forward to answering your questions, and since I'm no longer Secretary of State, I can actually answer your questions.